we got to touch a little bit on the Edmonton Oilers because, like I mentioned, this team comes in winning 5 in a row and, quietly moving up the standings in the North Division because they didn't get off to a good start. I believe this team was 6-8 after their first 14 games.
Yeah.
So quietly just moving up the standings, no one's really noticing them because the Leafs are playing so well.
And Montreal was kind of dipping. So, they kind of caught that second spot.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously they have McDavid and Draisaitl and everyone's seeing the highlights from those guys every night. But what's your impression of this team moving forward? Like, do you think the Oilers are the second best team in the Canadian division behind the Leafs?
No, I still got the Jets. And when you went through that list of the Leafs record and their record against teams in the division, how they've fared, we've only played the Jets once. Like, I'd like to see the Leafs a lot more against the Jets because the Jets are a team I think could do very well in this division and maybe could do some damage in the playoffs. But over 7 games, it's always how I see it. Like, even with McDavid and Draisaitl, they can have a great night and light it up and beat any team. Like, any team can win on any night. But I would say as close as you could say definitely not. I could not see the Oilers beating the Leafs in a 7-game series, and I could not see them beating the Jets over 7 games. I could see them beating Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, Ottawa, but no. I still have the Jets pretty locked into that second spot. And it'll be fun. I mean, based on how many games are left, there's going to be a lot of Jets games sprinkled in there, considering we've only played them once. So if that ends up being a battle for maybe winning the division, it'll be fun to see. But I mean, long and short of it, no, I do not see the Oilers as the second best team in the division. Do you?
I don't either. And here's the thing, like, would I be surprised if they finished in second? No, because if you look back to last season, the Leafs and Oilers were the 2 best teams in Canada just based on their regular season records.
Right.
And obviously both of them went out in the qualifying round and both of them had their flaws. And in the case of the Edmonton Oilers, I still think they're a flawed team. I know that they're good offensively. I know they have 2 of the top 5 players in the world, right? Whether you want to put Draisaitl that high is a different discussion, but they have 2 of the best offensive players in the world, and this team is going to score.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter that their depth sucks because those top end guys are going to do what they can to put this team on their back offensively. But when you think about this team moving forward and can they actually, do some damage in the playoffs, I don't think they can. I just don't think they can. Defensively, this team is still a mess. And yes, I said that their depth doesn't really matter when you have those 2 guys, but when you get into a 7-game playoff series, it does matter.
Yeah.
And there's only so much that McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be able to do. Sure, throughout the regular season, they can both get their 100 points and single-handedly win games for this Oilers team. But when this team is matched up in a 7-game series against quality opponents, with quality centermen, with good goaltenders, with, solid defense cores. And I know Winnipeg's defense core isn't great, but yeah, I look at the Leafs and the Jets right now as probably the 2 best teams in this division. Obviously, I think the Leafs are number 1, but I think I agree with you. I think Winnipeg is probably the second best team. But again, as we move forward throughout the season and, it's a sprint to the finish with this 56-game schedule, I would not be surprised one bit how it shakes out behind the Leafs. And I've said this on a previous show, when you look at that 2, 3, and 4 spot in the Canadian division playoffs, like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised how that shakes out, whether it's the Jets that finish at 2, the Oilers finish second, or the Habs, have a little bit of a resurgence and finish second. But yeah, this Oilers team at the end of the day is not really a team that I'd be concerned about come playoff time. And I don't care if McDavid and Draisaitl go nuts. And I said this on a previous show as well. Like, when you think about what they did against Chicago last year in the qualifying round, McDavid and Draisaitl were unreal. And they lost in 4 games to Chicago.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, this team I still think is too flawed to actually be a serious contender. But man, if they can just figure out a way to surround those 2 stars with some more depth throughout the lineup with some better goaltending, I mean, this team is right there. And that's the thing, right? You have all these teams that are searching for that star player. Who's going to be our next franchise player moving forward? The Oilers have that, Lepore.
It's a cap era, right? Because at the end of the day, nobody sucks. Like I always look at it like at the start of the year, if you minus the teams that are actually trying to lose in the way that they're blowing it up and they're trying to get a good pick, if you remove those teams, nobody's terrible. Like terrible, because we're in a cap era. You only have so much money that can go throughout one lineup. So talent has to get spread throughout the league. So there's a lot of teams in that spot. It's just the Oilers have two of the best players. So things could turn around in a hurry if they win some lotteries, but we'll wait and see. I guess it hasn't happened yet. And I don't have a lot of confidence, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just one of those teams where they need to find a way to surround McDavid and Draisaitl with a little bit more talent, and they could be a really, really good team.